your first step into pro basketball,
Mm-hmm.
what was it like?
So my big first job in pro basketball was working for the Washington Wizards
Okay.
in the NBA. When Rui Hachimura became the first Japanese-born player to be drafted in the first round, and when the Washington Wizards acquired him in 2019, because Rui already spoke English, he went to Gonzaga, spent 4 years in the States. And so as a result, he was already fluent in English. And so in the case of most pro athletes, especially like in baseball, Major League Baseball players, they would need an interpreter. So a team would go and hire an interpreter. Whereas the Wizards, they didn't need an interpreter. They didn't hire an interpreter. Instead, they said, let's use these resources to create a Japanese language content team. And that's when they said, okay, they wanted to hire someone who could be a producer, reporter, and then let's create a content team, someone who could be a videographer, editor, and then possibly another person maybe to help out with the marketing aspects. And so it kind of went in that order. And so now, because he's no longer with the Wizards, he's with the Lakers. That team is just down to the one person who runs the, day-to-day Twitter and Instagram, and also does the marketing. So that one person still remains with the team, and me and the videographer are no longer with them. But from the years from 2019 to 2023, when Rui was with the team, I was the team official digital correspondent, creating content for folks in Japan. So that was my biggest sort of NBA break job in pro basketball. Prior to that, I had done some things, other projects in Japan relating to Japanese basketball or women's basketball. Also worked for Rakuten, no longer the rights holders in Japan for NBA basketball, but at the time, I spent one season as their live broadcast interpreter. So they would, air these games, using the American feed. And then whenever reporters popped up on screen, or whenever there was an in-game or post-game interview, pre-game interview, I would be doing the live interpreting. So that gave me an opportunity to probably end up working about 80, 90, maybe about 100 games that season. And really kind of got me up to speed. Of course, I already, as a fan, was very familiar with the NBA and pro basketball. But that kind of gave me kind of a day-to-day sort of knowledge of, what was actually happening like every single day at a professional level. And right as I had finished that season, that's when Rui got drafted from Gonzaga. So, and then joined the Wizards, and then I joined the Wizards right after.
So what was your biggest surprise when you joined the team?
The travel. Yeah, in the NBA. Actually. I will say that the Wizards were sort of in a rebuilding situation in the 2019-2020 season. So, they weren't able to get like the best results, right? But as a fan, I always wondered, let's say a team goes on a long road trip and play really tough teams, and they actually might be successful. But then sometimes there's that sneaky road game, and they're actually going, just for one game on the road and playing like even a sub 500 team and lose. And I never understood, like, why is that possible? Well, the NBA, these teams, that first season, it was pre-COVID. I traveled with the team. So went on the team plane, players sat in the front, I sat in the back, and we would go to every city, me and the videographer, and just the amount of travel, the amount of toll it takes physically. And, of course, we're just watching them play, and I'm tired. And I'm just imagining, like, how are they able to play through this? And so that's why when you go on the road for a long, extended period of time, there's a bit of a routine. But when it's just like a one-game road trip, especially with the Washington Wizards, the airport they used was not the airport closest to them because they needed to use a 24-hour airport. And so it's also about a 50-minute drive from downtown Washington, D.C. to, suburban Virginia. And then flying from that airport So even just getting to the airport is quite a long haul.
Trip.
Yeah. And then you get home, like from the road trip, sometimes like right, because you'll travel like right after the game and you'll get in around 3 a.m. And then the next day they're doing a morning walkthrough. So I'm thinking, wow, like the amount of physical toll it takes on these guys physically. How are they getting sleep? They did have a sleep scientist who said that, you know, at the end of the week, if you can end up averaging 7 hours a night, that's good enough. But actually, truly, that's not good enough, right? Because when you hear about Olympic athletes, how they need to sleep like 9 hours plus. Well, you know, these guys, I think they would if they could, but they can't. So, you know, literally, like sometimes they'll get 6 hours and then they'll have a morning walkthrough, come back, take a nap, hour nap, go back and play. So somehow it adds up to 7, or sometimes it's even less sleep, but you know, then you'll maybe get 9 hours somewhere and then, you know, average it out to 7 hours. So I'm thinking actually, and plus the time zone, right? So this was the biggest eye opener for me. Because there's 82 games, because of the number of games in the NBA and the amount of travel. Sometimes you lose those, what you would consider winnable road games, because they basically are exhausted. They're like running on fumes. That was the biggest surprise for me.
All right. So that also sounds new for you, but was there a side that was more like familiar?
I think the amount of film study and the amount of sort of pre-game planning or prepping that they had to do. What was eye-opening for me about that was that it was all on the fly. Because in the NBA, you know, every game, unless it's a playoff series, it's a different team, right? And then, you know, like let's say if it's Rui, if you're looking at it from his perspective, he'll be guarding, you know, the opponent's wing player or, you know, the 3 or the 4, and he'd be matched up against. Or, you know, if they're switching everyone, then he would have to kind of know everyone's tendencies. But how much that had to be done on the fly. Because somehow the image you have, like especially, you know, I was with the B3 League, Tokushima Gambaros, a few seasons later as the general manager. And, you know, the games are Saturdays and Sundays, right? So you have all week to prepare for the same opponent. So that was almost like the NFL. Like, you know, once a week you have a different opponent. So you have all kinds of time to game plan and understand opponents' tendencies. But in the NBA, like everything is done on the fly.
Wow. Okay. Wow. Yeah, that's definitely.
Yeah, so I think that tests the player's IQ. It also means that the coaching staff, I think, have to be adaptable in maybe simplifying the game plan a little bit. Hence, I think the NBA's in-game sort of sets and, you know, some of the offenses that they run are a little simpler and rely on more like individual talent. Rather than like elaborate sets, right? Because I think you're going to see that more in probably European basketball or B League basketball because you have more time to prepare.
Now it was obviously from what you're saying different, but how did you adjust to that, and how long did it take for you?
Well, for me, you know, with the Wizards, I was a member of the team media, so there was no real like prep for me as far as you know, the opponent, right? So there wasn't like you know, basketball side to it. For me, it was strictly like covering the team. So I think what I needed to do to adapt was, you know, every time there's a different opponent. But that's the same with any sports journalist. You know, instead of speaking to Greg Popovich, the next time I'm going to be asking Steve Kerr a question, for example, or asking Rui about the different players he guarded. So I think for me, the prep work for me was simply just as a sports journalist to learn the opponents or to learn the teams. So that was the adapting. And, you know, it was just constant. So I think I learned that in the NBA, when you work on an NBA team, that you very rarely, actually maybe during the whole season, almost never had 2 days off in a row. If I did have a day off, it is already used for prepping for the next day. So, you know, whether it be me working at home, prepping. So, you know, it was just work constantly, which was fun because, you know, I was doing what I enjoyed doing. But you would never have consecutive days off. Like that's kind of the maybe something about the NBA that was maybe sets itself apart from maybe other leagues. Although I shall say that in the B League as well, especially for coaches, they'll probably never have consecutive days off either. So, but that's pro basketball. That's what I learned.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, in all of these, I know you're not a player, obviously, but how did you understand your role within the organization?
I felt like I was a storyteller.
Okay.
And that's really what it was, right? Because I would interview Rui after every game. I would interview the other players after every game, and then curate that, right? Decide as a producer, like what's the most meaningful part in order to tell that story to the audience, and then put subtitles on. And you know, even though this was just 7 years ago, this was a time when and even now actually AI does a good job interpreting or translating, but there will be mistakes, right? So, but at the time I had to manually do all the subtitles, put Japanese subtitles onto any spoken English, and then actually on any spoken Japanese by me or Rui, we would put English subtitles. So even though we were localizing the content for the Japanese audience, we were making it both bilingual content so that American audiences can also watch the Wizards JP content and understand what it is that we were telling. So for me, my role was, just simply storyteller, and that's what I was focused on.
Okay. Now, how can I say? How would I say that? Did people notice what you were doing? I think that would be the right question, I guess.
I mean, how would I gauge the reaction?
Yeah.
Well, this is where I think that it's always important to focus on the process, but because it's social media, on Twitter, on Instagram, you're gonna see comments.
Yeah.
You're going to see the views. You get stats, the metrics. So that was a clear sign that we were on the right track.
Okay.
And, we had a huge viewership, especially, when Rui was with the team. Now that he's no longer on the team, I think that there is less viewership, maybe some less followers, but we immediately, got a whole, tens of thousands of followers with tens of thousands of views. So we know instantly, like your channel here, like which episodes are going to be viewed more or not. Which content gets the most views. So not that we were catering to that, because I think we were focused on what we wanted to tell. And then if they watch, great. If they didn't watch, then maybe we had to understand, well, what was the reason for that? But for the most part, we kind of stuck by what we believed in, which was just simply telling the story and being the historian of the Washington Wizards for those seasons, and being sort of telling the story of Rui's NBA story as it's unfolding in real time.
Okay.
Next episode, Zach takes us inside the NBA environment and what most people never get to see. Not yet a follower? Subscribe to get updated on new drops.